Did this film foresee the Epstein case, or did it expose a recurring pattern in elite behavior? In 1999, a few days before his death, renowned director Stanley Kubrick presented the final cut of his latest film. Eyes Wide Shut hit theaters as a psychological drama about secrecy and marriage, but it was perceived as a flop by critics and a confusing film among the audience, eventually considered as a minor work in the director's filmography. 2 decades later, the film returned to the center of public debate, largely due to a name now widely associated with one of the most significant abuse scandals involving powerful people and institutions in modern history, Jeffrey Epstein. After the release of millions of files associated with the magnate, a recurrent parallel was made by people between the story told by Kubrick and the network of power revealed by the Epstein case. The comparison spread to the point that international media outlets reported on the phenomenon. An entire generation began to reinterpret Eyes Wide Shut as something beyond fiction. Gen Z are obsessed with Eyes Wide Shut, and it's got a lot to do with Jeffrey Epstein. But what exactly does the film show? And to what extent can these two stories be compared without crossing the line between fact and speculation? Watch this video and find out for yourself. Eyes Wide Shut follows Bill Harford, an upper-class New York doctor, married, with easy access to the city's most privileged circles. After an intimate conversation with his wife Alice, Bill wanders through the night and finds himself entering environments he had previously known only at a distance. Exclusive parties and a secret gathering at a secluded mansion outside the city. It is at this point that the film changes the tone from a simple love drama. Bill, played by Tom Cruise, discovers an event organized by wealthy people, all masked, participating in an eerie ritual. Before long, the participants realize that Bill does not belong to that group. He is then separated, to be interrogated in front of a group of participants who gather and surround him. A sense of danger crawls up. Bill is outnumbered, and he is definitely overpowered. Throughout the sequence, Kubrick avoids direct explanations. No identities but Bill's are revealed. Power is suggested by the calmness and the exclusive secrecy the members share, in which Bill does not partake. In one of the film's most talked about scenes, Bill is warned by Victor Ziegler, a tycoon played by Sidney Pollack. Ziegler claims that these people are not who they appear to be in public, and that insisting on questions could have serious consequences.
Who do you think those people were? Those were not just ordinary people there. If I told you their names, I'm not going to tell you their names, but if I did, I don't think you'd sleep so well.
The film that connects all the conspiracies. From there, the rest of the film follows Bill as he tries to understand what happened that night. He begins to feel that he is being followed, until, upon arriving home, he finds the mask he had worn in the ritual on the bed, placed next to his wife. The film ends by implying that, from that moment on, nothing will be the same as before, and that the two now share a secret from which there is no escape. Stanley Kubrick directed some of the most influential films in cinema history, such as Dr. Strangelove, A Clockwork Orange, The Shining, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. His obsession with symbolism meant that his works were constantly surrounded by messages found in the darker layers of the main story. It is in this context that, in 1999, what many consider to be Kubrick's darkest and most enigmatic film, Eyes Wide Shut, hit theaters. However, there's a story behind the story told in the film. During post-production, Kubrick screened a version of the film for Warner Brothers execs. Reports indicate that he was extremely excited about the result, even stating that it would be the best film of his career. Less than a week later, Kubrick died in his sleep, victim of a heart attack. A few months later, the film officially premiered in theaters, but it was not the same cut shown by Kubrick. It is estimated that about 23 minutes of the version presented to executives were removed. The audience ended up watching a different film from the one the director had finalized. This hypothesis was revisited years later by Roger Avary, screenwriter of Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, during his appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast.
When they first screened the movie in England, there were people who were outside of the theater who could hear inside of the theater Kubrick yelling at all the executives and saying, "It's my movie, you can't cut it. You can't f***ing cut my film, blah, 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 blah." Big argument going on. Then he dies like 4 days later.
Oh, Jesus.
So somebody went in and finished the movie, but I think when they finished the movie, they hid the film. The movie got changed into something else.
There are many similarities between the film and the Epstein case. One point that caught the attention involves images released from inside Little St. James, the island associated with the billionaire. Among the released records is a room full of masks. This detail gained attention because it is now known that an exploitation scheme involving minors operated there. For many observers, the presence of masks is an explicit connection to the rituals depicted in the film. The theme of inappropriate relationships with minors also appears as a recurring subtext in the work. This is also present in secondary elements of the narrative, such as the subplot involving the daughter of Mr. Milich, the owner of the costume shop. But Kubrick's tale also resembles other cases in the world of the powerful and famous. For instance, Epstein was accused of exploiting minors and blackmailing influential figures, while Sean "Diddy" Combs has been accused of organizing drug-fueled events involving celebrities from music and sports. Another example is former producer Harvey Weinstein. For decades, Weinstein, like figures such as Diddy and Epstein, was accused by numerous women of abusing his position of influence to engage in sexual misconduct, with allegations involving roughly 80 women. According to multiple allegations, Weinstein used his position by coercing or soliciting intimate favors in return for career advancement. Across all three cases, a recurring pattern appears to emerge in which influence and money were allegedly leveraged to obtain personal gratification from victims. In Epstein's case in particular, communications suggest a transactional dynamic in which access to victims may have been framed as a way to provide favors to friends and associates. These exchanges have fueled speculation that such favors were expected to be repaid in kind, reinforcing the perception of a network built on influence, obligation, and silence. In this sense, Eyes Wide Shut becomes a sort of parallel that speaks of these patterns of behavior within the elites. What is also known from documented sources is that Kubrick was an extreme perfectionist and exercised strict control over every detail of his films. Everything had a purpose. It is also a fact that he spent years studying secret societies and rituals, references that appear throughout the entire work. Did you already know this story? What do you think of this comparison? Does it make sense, or are these just theories? Leave your comments below. If this investigation raised questions that deserve deeper answers, you'll find much more work like this on Big Picture Originals. Become a member and get full access to all our investigations, films, series, and documentaries for $9.99 a month on the annual plan. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and unlock your access. Big stories, small price.